Hello and welcome back to my channel, Boozy Bookish Thoughts. I'm Justine, or Jay if you prefer, and welcome back to my new video. So today, this Tuesday, we are doing another Tag Tuesday, and we are doing the in or out book tag. And I've seen several variations of this across BookTube and even bleeding into other YouTube communities, but it is primarily a book tag. And I've seen different variations of it over several different channels. So I looked up the original so that I could base my answers on the original tag. And it is by Rick McDonald. And the concept of the tag is that all the prompts, there are 25 prompts in total. There are 26 prompts in total. And each one is a trope or a bookish trend, if you will. And you have to say whether you're in, meaning you like it, or you're out, meaning you don't like it. And I believe the concept is that you're supposed to be a bit succinct when you're talking about it. But let's see if we will manage to be succinct. So again, shout out to Rick McDonald for the original tag. I will leave the link to the original video in the description. And that's it. We'll start with the tags. We'll start with the prompts. So the first is reading the last page first, definitely out. I do, as much as I want to know how a book ends, the journey is just as important to me as the destination. In fact, I would say it's more important to me. The journey is more important than the destination, I would argue, when it comes to a book. And what are you gonna do if you read the ending and you don't like it? Are you just gonna not read it already? I don't know. This seems very backwards to me, but I do know some people who do it, and it's not for me. It's not for me. And that being said, I do believe there is a moratorium on spoilers. Like, if a book has been out for a year, you can't expect to not be spoiled anymore. Even 6 months is pushing it. So, I mean, I'm not against knowing the ending, but I am out in terms of actively reading the last page or the last chapter of a book. The second is enemies to lovers. Neutral. I would put this closer to in than out. It is not my favorite trope, but I have nothing against it. I've seen it done pretty well. Third prompt is dream sequences. In. I do like dream sequences, especially if they add something to the story. If it's just a random thing thrown in there to be confusing or be whimsical, it's still fun, but it doesn't serve a purpose. It's not for me. But the ones where dream sequences, or even, let's say, unconscious sequences, serve a purpose and move the plot forward or develop a character, those are very good for me. Number 4, love triangles. Out. Like I've said before, a love triangle can only exist with at least one LGBT person. Most love triangles are only a corner, and what's the fun in that? So generally out. If there is a genuine love triangle with at least one LGBT character, then please tag me in the comments on what that book is. I do want to read it. Or polyamory, like a polyamorous thing. I want to read those books. Number 5, cracked spines. I'm not sure what that means. Like, when you crack the spine on a book. I have books with cracked spines in them. I am not that gentle with my books because I, especially my most beloved books, which I read and reread and reread and have owned for years and years and years. It's not a question of not loving them that I don't take care of them, but it's a matter of loving them so much that I read them so much, and so they are naturally careworn. Think Velveteen Rabbit, you know? The book is more real the more battered it is. Number 6, Back to My Small Town. more out than in, unless, well, no. I read this trope a lot in cozy mysteries, and in that context, I have nothing against it. In the context of family dramas, I'm out. In the context of romance, neutral. More out than in. Number 7, monsters are regular people. Definitely in. I love, especially when you mean monsters in the paranormal sense. I don't particularly enjoy books that humanize, like, monsters in history. But if you want to talk about vampires grabbing a pint of blood at the local pub, that's my jam. Number 8, no paragraph breaks. Oh, I have not seen a book do this, and I would definitely not be into it. Out. Big out. Wall of text, no thank you. If you know a book that does this, tag me down below so I know to avoid it. Number 8, multi-generational sagas. Number 9, multi-generational sagas. I don't know if I have read one of these. The closest that I can remember reading that is something like this would be the Shannara series. And I read those in high school, and that was not in a single book. That was over several books in a series. Nothing against it. Again, for fantasy, I am in. For family drama, contemporary drama, generally out. Or historical fiction, I would be out as well. Especially if it's just about rich, old, white people. Talking about rich, old, white people concerns. Not interesting. But I suppose something like a multi-generational immigration family, like the story of immigrants, or how people move around continents, or BIPOC people, or even LGBT. I mean, if it's a multi-generational story that tells the story of more, it sounds bad, more interesting, but I mean, not the stories that we are hearing all the time, you know, something that gives insight into an experience that I can relate to, about being brown, about being woman, about being disabled, about being bisexual, you know, things like that. Then yes, I would be open to reading that, although I never have, but I would be open to reading it. But if it's just about, there's this one book that my ex, who is a really pretentious reader, was reading, and it was a multi-generational saga, and it's the book that came to mind with this prompt, and it was basically just like rich white people stressing about how they were losing money because the war had broken out, and I'm like, how's this? But then again, he was a rich old white man as well, so I guess it was relevant to him. But yeah, personally, more out than in. Number 10, rereading, very much in. I constantly reread my favorite books. I don't often reread entire books. I will reread sections or chapters that are my favorite or have significant relevance or even are just beautifully written. But yes, very much into rereading. Number 11, artificial intelligence. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, like the concept of artificial intelligence in books. I guess, I'm generally interested in artificial intelligence, and as a plot device, I would be interested. I believe I bought a book just recently that uses a similar plot device, so I will talk about that in my haul. Or I have talked about that in my haul, depending on when this video goes up. Number 12, drop caps. I don't know what this is. Can someone tell me in the comments what a drop cap is? I don't know what that is. Number 13, happy endings. I generally like happy endings. Who doesn't? Life is hard enough as it is. You don't get closure in real life. You don't get... a happy ending is not guaranteed in real life, so I prefer my books to have happy endings. Number 14, plot points that only converge at the end. Yes, I do love this. Very much in. I do like stories that that seem to be disparate, although not too disparate. I like it when you can sort of see the interconnections, but you don't make sense of it as a whole and don't see the whole picture until the end. But if it's if it's a twist that it turns out they're related, that's also good too, I suppose. So in general, yes. Plot points that only converge at the end, yes, very much in. Number 15, detailed magic systems. In capital I, capital N. This is my jam. As an autistic reader, it is my jam to figure out detailed magic systems. I want to know, can you build a wall of fire? If you build a wall of fire, will it run out of your control? Will it spread outwards? Do the laws of physics apply? What kind of fire is it? Did you actually create the fire? Or is it like an otherworldly thing you summoned in? I need to know. And I will devour every bit of world building that is in the book talking about this. So yes, in. Number 16, classic fantasy races. I don't know what this means. I guess it means orc, gnome, dwarf, elf, and whether or not I'm in or out on them. In. I realize they are problematic. I realize there are problematiques on the classic depiction of fantasy races, but for the purposes of fantasy, I enjoy them. And I also enjoy definitely if you take the concept of classic fantasy races and give it your own little twist, and use them in unexpected ways. That is definitely interesting. So yes, generally in. Number 17, unreliable narrators. This is a mixed bag. I am tempted. I'm tempted to say no, because I've only seen very few works do this very well. And honestly, I guess it's an autism thing as well, that I will trust what is being said to me. And it is, I take at face value the words on the page. And if the narrator is saying one thing and then later on says something else, I will be more likely to blame the author and say it's a plot hole than automatically think that it's an unreliable narrator. And so generally out. Number 18, evil protagonists. I don't know what this means, like unlovable protagonists or protagonists that do bad things. I definitely like morally gray characters. I identify with characters that are morally gray, or at least, or are chaotic good, or even chaotic neutral characters. I don't know if I could read a book that I will think of this as evil if it's evil in the strictest D&D sense, where it means they are entirely self-interested. I haven't read a book like that recently, so I can't think of one that comes to mind, and I don't know if I would be very interested in it. That being said, I wouldn't say no to trying it out. So I'm open on this. I will generally say that I prefer my protagonists to be chaotic good, at least chaotic neutral. Number 19, the chosen one. Problematic as well. I do like twists on the chosen one trope, but if it's played straight, no. Out. Number 20, when the protagonist dies. Does it come back to life? Does he come back to life later on? I like series, so no, out. I like them to stay alive or come back to life. Number 21, really long chapters. My ADHD says no. Very much no. But if they are broken up into subsections, they're fine. I just like to be able to say I've completed an entire section. So long chapters with subsections are okay, but generally out. Number 22, French flaps. What does that mean? I should have looked this up before I did the tag. French flaps. Are those like the flaps on the books in the inside covers? No strong feelings. I hardly read paperback anymore. Number 23, Deckled Edges. What is that too? I'm not knowing a lot of these. Is that like sprayed edges? I think I like that in hard copies, in hard covers. Number 24, signed copies by the author. Yes, very much so. I do like signed copies by the author. I will buy a hard copy and have it signed if I had the chance to meet an author. Number 25, dog earring pages. Yes. When I read hard copy books, I dog ear my pages. I believe I have stated this in previous videos. Number 26, chapter titles instead of numbers. Out. I like to see my progression. I like to see the numbers going up and knowing when it ends. So that is the last prompt. I kept it to 16 minutes for 26 prompts. Admittedly, there were some I did not know, so please, if you know what those are, comment down below. Please enlighten me. Such as what are drop caps or French flaps. That rhymes. Drop caps or French flaps. I feel like I should say something like Dr. Seuss. So those are the 26 prompts of the in or out tag, and I would love to tag MJ from Reading This Live. I believe she has not done this tag, and I would love to hear her thoughts on these tropes. And I would also like to tag William from William's Library, who is another booktuber I met on MJ's support group. So that's it for me. I hardly touched my wine this episode. I am so sorry. I got really into answering those questions. But here, I am still drinking the Tall Horse Pinotage Rosé. And again, I will say, if you want to hear the books I will pair with this, stay tuned for September 30th. I will be talking about that wine then. Until then, I hope to see you soon. Cheers!